What's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about the DasMikro V5 Gyro, which probably has the best performance to price ratio, coming in at around 20 bucks, depending on where you get it. I got mine off of AliExpress, and there's a few sellers on there selling it between like $18 to $24 or whatever. But yeah, so you really shouldn't be spending more than $20 to $25 for one. But compared to the $40 plus gyros out there, I mean, this probably performs good enough, or it's at least close enough to those top end gyros to where it's probably not worth the extra 20 bucks when this gyro performs very well for its price range. So when it comes to the LDRC 1803 that I have here, the V5 is like the best bet, because I'm trying to stay cheap as it is anyway, because the car is around 40 bucks depending on where you get it, and then plus the gyro, so you're looking at 60-70 bucks, and then you'll have a pretty decent little drifter. I'm obviously not the first one to point this out. Other YouTubers have already covered this, like Apex RC Garage has a pretty good video out there already talking about this gyro, and then there's other YouTubers as well that have already covered this, but I'm just gonna throw my hat into the ring and just talk about some of the stuff that I've figured out so far with this upgrade, because if you're going to do any upgrades to this car, that's like the most important and probably the first upgrade you should do, is throwing this gyro on here, since the internal gyro on these electronics are they're pretty garbage. I don't like it. It doesn't do well. It doesn't matter what percentage, 25, 50, 75, 100%, whatever gain you use on the internal one. It's just, it's not very fun. Like it's hard to control. It's not really, what I want to be using. So I'm opting out and going with the external gyro here, which definitely helped out its performance. But there's a few things that I still, I'm not too happy with, and I'm gonna do some changes to fix some of the issues that I've been running into. Now also the servo to gyro combo is pretty important on this car as well, and I also think the electronics are probably the biggest thing that's holding this gyro back from working as well as it can with a lot of the servos that are out there, because I've tried a couple different 9G servos that have metal gears and that are digital, and they all seem to have the same issue where I can't really get past 30% gain on the DasMikro V5 gyro here, which there is a V6 version out there too, but if you get the V6 version, you're gonna have to swap out the electronics, because it doesn't have the little knob on here for you to adjust the gain right on the board. You actually have to hook it up to a channel on the receiver to change it with your radio, which you can't do that with the stock electronics. So if you're gonna mess around with the stock electronics and you wanna try out one of these DasMikro gyros, the V5 is the best bet, because you can use that one with an aftermarket receiver or with the stock electronics. So if you're gonna swap back and forth, this is the best gyro for the job. While the V6 one, if you can use that with this car, but you'd have to get rid of the stock electronics to use it. So yeah, the little gyro has two different ports for connecting, and I made my own little connectors here. You have to, you can buy ones online that are already pre-made, but I just made my own. I just had some of these little 3-pin connectors I have laying around from some projects, and I just cut and soldered them to the wires, because they come with these little kind of plugs, and I can just chop and solder these up instead of buying a new set. I don't need to. I already have the parts to do it. So that's what I did to make this thing work, where I could plug it in. Usually I direct solder things, but since I'm going to be swapping out the electronics down the road here, I wanted to just use these connectors for now to test, to do some testing and then try stuff out before I make up my mind on what I want to stick with, and then I'll probably, direct solder. But then again, I mean, there's a lot of space underneath these 1/18 scale cars that I might not even need to worry about really desoldering pins or anything like that if I need to lower the space like I had to do with my K969 over there, which I have no room in that one, so I had to desolder pins and whatnot to make everything fit. And that one has a V6 DasMikro gyro in it, so I can show that later on if I have time, so that you can see the difference between the V5 and the V6. Now the setups are pretty easy on these little gyros. You know, plug it in, just put it somewhere on the frame wherever you want. I mean, I've tried it in the back and a couple different areas, and it really doesn't seem to matter where I put it. Just make sure you kind of soft mount it. You know, I just put it on 2 layers of double-sided tape, seems to be good enough, because you don't want too many vibrations getting into it, but it can handle, you know, some vibrations. But just make sure you find a good spot for it where it's not in the way of anything. And then so the little dial on here, let's see if I can get a better angle. It's for the gain, and if you go clockwise, that makes the wheels do slow return. So when you turn and then let go, it'll slowly return back to center. And then if you go counterclockwise to the left there, they will do fast return. So the wheels will return fast once you let go of the steering and stuff. So I prefer the slow return, so that's why you can see I'm going to the right there a little bit, but I can't really get past 20 to 30% gain because I think the electronics are holding me back, because these servos are pretty good that I've had. I've tested a bunch of them out that are decent servos, but they aren't really able to go past that 30% mark without getting some wobbles in the steering. So I'm pretty much gonna change out the electronics to fix that, because no matter what I do, no matter how many times I reset this gyro, and no matter what I try when it comes to a servo, I always get the same result when it comes to the wobbling and shaking in the steering once I get past about 30%. And what sucks is that going past 30% I want to be in like the 50 to 60 percent range on the gain, because it seems like it controls the steering a lot better. More, you can do more maneuvers and stuff with better control. When I have to go down to 20 to 30%, it seems like it's a lot easier for the car to spin out, because it's not getting that full control from the gyro, because the gyro is limited because of the electronics, I feel, to where it's not allowing it to do its full potential. So that's one of the gripes that I have when it comes to the stock electronics and running the gyro. But overall, if you don't have anything else like this gyro is still way better than the internal one that's in the stock one. So I'd rather have that on there and deal with that issue than deal with the internal gyro that just sucks. The first thing you want to do is, like, when you turn it on, you want to check the directions and stuff of the counter steering, if it's going the right way or not. Luckily for mine, it was okay. And make sure you turn off the internal gyro too, because they'll fight each other. So luckily mine was counter steering the right direction, so I didn't have to reverse it. So if you don't have to reverse it, you want to set the endpoints right away, so the gyro knows the endpoints of your steering, like how far it can go left, how far it can go right. And to do that, let's see, I guess I can do it in real time. I'll turn it off, turn on your radio. Let's see if I can do this in the air. You want to push the little button here, and you want to hold it, and then you want to turn the car on. Then you want to let it flash, and then when it stops flashing, you want to let go. And then it should do the blinking like that. And then I'm going to turn off the internal gyro first before I do this. And then you want to turn your steering to the left, all the way left. Wait a second. All right, it did it on its own. We'll go back to center and then go to the right, and then wait a second, and then it should go back to center on its own. And then it just figured out the endpoints of the servo right there and your steering. So the light should go solid when it's good, and you shouldn't have to do anything else to get the adjustments going, and then you can just play around with the gain right there to where you want it when you're drifting. Now, if you need to reverse the counter steer, the method to do that is the exact same thing as what I just did. You just hold the button when before you turn the car on, then turn the car on, and then wait till it does the slow flashing. And then instead of turning left first, you're going to turn right first. So you turn the wheel right, and then let it do its thing it goes back to center, and then turn left and let it go, back to center, and then that'll actually reverse the counter steering. So that's how you reverse it. And then obviously when you want to do the endpoints, you just do like I did originally, left first and then right first. And then there is another setup sequence that you can do. So I was kind of having some issues where I was getting some serious little shake going on in the steering that I couldn't really fix. I mean, especially when the gains were a little bit higher, like past 30%, it was really kind of a little bit shaky here and there. Like a little bit too much wobbling. Like there's a little bit of wobbling, especially to go up. It should have like a little bit of wobble going on, but it was a little bit too much. And on the manual, I found that you can reset the gyro, and the method to do that is kind of weird. It was hard to figure out. It took me a few tries to actually get it. So what you would have to do if you wanted to reset the gyro, if you were having issues where you're having too much shake from the servo, you would have to turn off the radio first. I don't really want to redo it because I might mess things up. So what you'd have to do is turn off the radio, keep it off, and then you'd have to hold the button down, then turn on the car, and then keep holding it until it's done blinking, and then it stops blinking and it's solid. And then you let off, and then you push the button 3 times, and then you turn it off. And then you turn it, or then you hold the button down again, and then you turn it on again, and then you wait till the little LED flashes, and then stops and it goes solid again, and then you let go, and then you push the button 3 times again, and then you turn the car off. And then you turn on the radio, and then you hold the button again, and then you turn on the car again, and you wait until it goes through its little flashing sequences, and it should get to the slow flashing, and then you just let go. And that supposedly like resets it to where it won't be as shaky. It won't be like really like crazy shakes going on. It'll kind of like be a lot slower and smoother and controlled. I mean, it took me a bunch of tries to actually get it to work right, and I eventually got it, but it was not easy. I took multiple tries, and it just didn't seem like it was working correctly, and then eventually it just worked. I don't know. So I really don't want to go through it again because I don't know if it's gonna mess anything up, but that's what I found. So if you look on some of the websites where you can buy the DasMikro V5 gyro, don't go to their website because for some reason they don't have a lot of information on there on how to set it up. Go to one like on AliExpress. Some of the sellers have a good description of how to set it up, and go to the bottom, and hopefully they should tell you like right there at the bottom of the description and everything, how to reset the gyro. And then that's where I pretty much followed those steps and then got it to reset. And it seems like it kind of fixed that weird shakiness that I was getting from the servo when the gyro was on. And then it kind of smoothed it out, but it's still not perfect. I feel like I have to get rid of these electronics to really get rid of the problems, and then I can actually change the gains from my remote, because I will set it up on channel 3 to where I can change the gains, and then hopefully be able to get up to 50, 60, 70% gain and still have control without it starting to wobble. And I do have some better servos to try. Like, I tried this one out. It was about the same results as this one. All these little digital, I don't know if this one's digital, actually this one might be analog, but I know this one's digital. This one could be analog, I forgot. I know this one's definitely digital. This one's pretty much the same as this one, but with a metal case. And then I do have this little gem that I got years ago, like almost a decade ago, that I used to use for my drones, for my camera gimbals and stuff. It's a really nice digital servo that unfortunately I shaved off one of these little flaps, so I'll have to make a new mount and everything to make sure this thing gets mounted solid. But I think I'm going to use this one with the gyro and the new electronics because it's really smooth and it's really precise. So I have a feeling I'll get the best performance out of this servo. It's one of these RGAX hobby servos. They're probably still out there, but they're expensive. They're probably more expensive than the car, especially nowadays. Back then they were pretty expensive, so now they're might be twice as much as the car for all I know. But yeah, I'm planning on using that gyro, or that servo hopefully, with this gyro, and then swapping out the electronics. I have my R7FG, and then this little Dumbo RC 10 amp ESC, but it also has ports for the lights and stuff, so I can still control the taillights and the headlights and all that kind of stuff with this ESC. That's pretty much why I went with this one, but it's only for brushed motors, so it was about 10 bucks. So I can't really swap to brushless. I might switch to brushless down the road, but first I'm gonna use this one and beat up the brushed motor, and then eventually I'll maybe have to swap out this ESC and then do a brushless setup. But for now, I'm just gonna stick with brushed. But yeah, I'm actually looking forward to switching to this because I'm kind of over this transmitter and these stock electronics. They just don't do that great. So that's coming up soon. I have a bunch of other mods I'm gonna do as well. I'll do some little quick videos on some small stuff you can change to get this thing going. I added weights to it. But I'm definitely going to do some suspension mods. I have a rear suspension idea I'm gonna do that you guys will probably love. And then a front suspension and a steering. I might try to go for 90-degree steering and basically just redesign this whole front end a little bit. But yeah, so that's what I have coming down the pipe. So stay tuned. I will hopefully have those videos within the next few weeks, and then hopefully I'll see you there. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.